in order not to gain too much delay in the schedule, because it's quite an intensive morning, I want to bid you welcome on behalf of the entire Eurada team. So this course is the second session of the first module of OBEC. We are teaching this to test the accreditation via blockchain of the recognition of the competencies you are gaining through this course. Next week, we are organizing a similar course, also on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, same time frame, 9 to 1, and then we will concentrate on circular economy. So we highly encourage you to attend both events if you can. I wanted to ask you all to keep yourself muted when you are not speaking to avoid interference on the line, but please do not be shy and do show your faces, because it's quite interesting for Adrià, who will be teaching, to not have to speak to an empty room. So meanwhile, I still encourage you to join the Slido debate, and I want to introduce you our speakers before I give the floor to all of you. So our main speaker today will be Adrià Aguado Lorente. To be precise, it's a very long name. It's a very posh person. He's a nice guy, you will see. Adrià holds an international business degree from Valencia University and Kpis Business School. He is the CEO and founder of Miivo Mobility. This is a young Valencian startup that offers mobility as a service company. It aims to gather sustainable mobility options in a city in one single platform, thus allowing users to plan, compare, choose, and pay for all their trips, no matter the transport means. Moreover, and I think this is brilliant, to effectively foster greener mobility, Miivo includes a gamification system that rewards users by simply using more sustainable transport means with discounts, prizes, and promotions. Adrià has a very hands-on entrepreneurial experience despite his rather young age, and he has a very thorough knowledge of the startup landscape, which makes him the perfect teacher for our course. So he kindly agreed to share his tips and tricks with you all today, and he will teach you not only how to write a sound business plan. Under his guidance tomorrow, you will also learn how to successfully pitch your business idea. Adrià will be assisted by Marta, our colleague. Marta Serrano, after obtaining her degree in foreign languages, Marta specialized further in international relations, project management, innovation, and technology transfer. She's passionate about education and a very firm believer in the principle of lifelong learning. She was also instrumental in setting up a very worthwhile initiative, in my opinion, where young athletes under the umbrella of the Juventus Football Club are provided with an education and training while working on their athletic prowess. All the while, the initiative ensures that the focus remains on the students' technical, mental, emotional, and relational well-being. Stints in the Enterprise Europe network and renowned robotics company Comau equipped Marta with a profound knowledge of Industry 4.0, technology transfer, and all things innovation. So we are more than happy that she joined Eurada a while ago as the head of the Erasmus Plus projects, and OBEC is one of those projects. So it's only logical that Marta is here today, and she is kindly supporting Adrià in this course. She will be speaking about process and people management and how to explore new markets. So now I want to give the floor, Giacomo, if you can, to each and every single one of the participants. And we asked them to do a short tour de table. I will start with myself. I work in Eurada, and I am since 15 years, and I am the manager there, and I work with my colleague Marta and Yip in the OBEC project, and this is why you see me here monitoring the event. Maybe Yip can present himself as well, and then we go to the participants.
Yes, thank you, Tessa. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yip Lensen. I am project officer here at Eurada. I just started in February, so this is my first official Eurada event, and I am from the Netherlands. Looking forward to meeting all of you.
Okay, I see a lot of names that I don't know, but I'm curious to meet these people. Ainoa, okay. I don't know if I butchered your name. Do correct me if I'm not pronouncing it well. Can you present yourself, please?
Hello, good morning. I'm Janvière Yaramba. I'm sorry, yesterday I had another meeting, so I couldn't attend the class. I'm from Brussels. I live in Brussels. I was born in Rwanda, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm starting my business and HR management, soft management. I'm qualified in business management and in project management. Last year, I wanted to work with Eurada. It didn't work, but I'm still interested in the all project conducted by Eurada because I believe that it's a good value added for the European project and the European regional development, and I'm passionate by entrepreneurship. And so I'm happy to be here, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you. Welcome, very welcome. It's nice to hear that you know our network already. Okay, Giacomo, who else wants to take the floor? The floor is yours. Maybe I see Liviu. Do you want to present yourself, please?
Hi. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Liviu Ranceagă from Bucharest Ilfov Regional Development Agency. We know Eurada from several events we organized with your help in the last years, also during the European Week of Regions and Cities. And I don't work in entrepreneurship, but I'd like to learn. And this course, I think it's very good for us to upgrade our skills.
Yes, and I'm sure that you will pick up a few things on the way that you will be using on a daily basis while supporting the entrepreneurs in your RDA. So I'm quite confident it will be useful. Thank you, Liviu.
Yeah, thank you too.
Okay, Adrià, you will learn later on, I hope, during the debate, who are your speakers. The floor is yours if you want to.
Thank you, Tessa. So if you all agree, I will start sharing my screen and we go ahead and start the course. So let me know when you can see my screen. Okay, so good morning, everybody. As Tessa has already mentioned, I'm going to speak a little bit about the OBEC project. OBEC project is a 2 strategic partnership co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program, which Marta leads right now from the European Union. For those who don't know, OBEC is a transnational and European collaboration among the partners and organizations in many countries, such as Sweden, Italy, Croatia, and Belgium. Our main goal is to explore potentials of blockchain technology, including this type of courses and this type of knowledge acquired, to promote competency development and recognition of skills and qualifications by creating innovative systems to issue and validate blending credentials, as there was the case yesterday with Christian, or it's the case with me today in business plan, or tomorrow with the pitching skills. So in general, the project's goal is to encourage professional and academic integration of migrants, exchange students, and individuals, of course, if it's concerning Erasmus Plus project, with both informal and non-formal learning backgrounds, which is important to provide them the knowledge and the information just to try to improve their skills in many different aspects. So as for today, I will start talking, as I mentioned, about creating a business plan, how is a business plan structure, and how to make a business plan from my point of view. I want to say before starting that I learned by experience, I've learned by doing, and any other types of structuring a business plan are also welcome. I will provide my experience and my personal opinion on how to build a business plan from the experience I've learned. So any kind of suggestions or any kind of questions that I thought on doing this on the other way, feel free to tell me, because there is no perfect way of doing a business plan. It's only having really clear in mind which are the main, the most important points and what to mention. But in general, there are no exact measures or exact formulas for a perfect business plan. So we go ahead and let's start. First of all, for those who, I guess it will be a few people, but for those who don't know what a business plan is a written document that describes in detail your business idea and its main goals. It's probably like the Bible of your idea or your business. It's something that you have to really work hard on it and really perfection it as much as possible, because it will be the document, the written document that anybody interested in your idea or anybody you want to be interested in your idea will be looking at. So it's really important to work on it, to update it, because at the beginning, I speak from myself, you have to be updating all the time because the idea grows and grows and grows, and the business plan has to be adapted and has to be really linked to this growth or this development of the idea. So it's quite important to bear this in mind. And why is it important to have a business plan? First of all, for me, it was to put into words your idea. When I first started 1.5 years ago, I had a really big idea for me. For me, it was a brilliant idea, which has changed a lot, by the way, right now from what it was at the beginning. But when we were first writing our business plan, it was like a kind of exercise to do, okay, we have an amazing idea, we want to work on it, we have many projects to do, but okay, which are the main parts of my idea? What are we doing? What are we doing it for? Who are we addressing? Many important aspects that when you are so even euphoric of your idea, you start commenting it with your friends, with your family, and you say, okay, it's a great idea. Yeah, I didn't think about it, but I like it. Kind of you don't get the information and you don't get the proper information about your own idea due to this excitement or due to this emotion that you feel at the beginning. So it's really important that the business plan takes into the ground, okay, what are the main elements of your idea? What are the main advantages of your idea? How are you going to structure? How are you going to development? With who? So I think that is one of the most important parts at the beginning for any idea, project, startup, to put into words what are you doing. Then this leads to a really important point for me too, that this trace a clear strategy. At the beginning, everything is led by passion, by excitement, by nice comments from people that normally are not being completely honest, are just trying to be kind with you, which I will further develop. So what does the business plan do? Okay, you have an idea, but where are you right now in your idea development? Where do you want to be? How are you going to achieve that point? Which are the financial part of this? Which are the marketing plans of this? Which team is going to lead us to that point of development, of success, of wherever you put into the business plan? So I think business plan helps a lot on tracing a clear strategy, and also linking to the third point, setting goals and KPIs, which is really important to keep an exact and clear development of your idea. Okay, I want my application to have 1 million downloads. Okay, but before that, how are you going to get 10? How are you going to have 100? How are you going to get that supplier that will provide you with more users? It's important to set goals, to set KPIs according to the development level and to the moment of the idea in each step and in each stage. So I think that the business plan is a good document in providing that information that maybe you don't know. And finally, but not least important, it's really useful because it describes it when you are writing, or it was my case. Okay, your strength, you will know them for the whole entire life of your project or your idea of your startup. You're going to be in love with your project, and that will make it really easy to see the strengths and to see the good points. The worst thing or the most difficult thing is to find your weaknesses. Where are you lacking the most? Where are you weak the most? Because sometimes you are so emotional about your idea, you feel like it's your own son or your own daughter, so you have no objective opinion on your idea, and the business plan is like the reality punch that you need at the beginning, especially to say, okay, because the business plan will ask you some things that you won't have prepared, that you won't know, that you won't have the data about. So it will be, okay, my idea was brilliant, but it lacks data, it lacks market analysis, it lacks a financial plan, it lacks a strategic plan. So the business plan will be really important for defining what are your weaknesses, because the weaknesses are the main points that you will be working on the following weeks and months. So I think that in this sense, the business plan will take you into action sooner than thinking that your idea is great, that it has many strengths, that it has many competitive advantages. So these 4 points I consider that are the most important reasons why a business plan is important, and when any project, idea, or startup should write a business plan as soon as possible and keep updating it throughout time. And concerning this, let's start to see the structure I mentioned. As I said before, this is the structure I followed and I've learned through all my experience with Miivo. But as I said before, there are no exact formulas in business that you already know. Social sciences are not exact sciences. It's not maths. It's not physics. There are some times that an investor will like most to have the team before, or the team last, or the financial plan before, or the marketing plan. That will depend highly on who are you addressing the business plan for. That we will talk about that later. But in my case, the best structure for me is the following one, starting from a short and brief but important executive summary describing the main points of your idea, further developing your idea description on the second point. I personally like to include the team and the management part quite at the beginning, because at first your idea is worth nothing but your team and the people who can make that idea reality, because normally the idea is a PowerPoint, the idea is a crazy thought on a Saturday night. So what will make more credible, more powerful the idea will be the team. If the team is a cohesive team, a diverse team, has the good skills and management, and they are able to provide it, they will be much more interested in what you are going to tell if they see that in your business plan at first, that in the end, which is another opportunity, but I prefer to put it before. Later, I will explain about the market analysis, which is a really deep part of the business plan, because it gets to be the point where you know where you acting and where do you want to compete with. After that, obviously, a business plan has to include a financial plan that concerns revenues, cost, funding, and all the financial main aspects. Afterwards, when you say, okay, I'm going to earn this money, that is going to cost me that money, how are you going to promote that amazing idea? Which parts are going to be paid with what money, and why are you planning to do that? And finally, with all the previous points, the implementation plan is kind of a recap in which you will be able to provide your roadmap, your next steps, with a solid background of okay, I know everything about my idea, about my environment, about my finance, my marketing. So I'm going to do this, this, and this, because this, and this. So it's really important for me that the implementation plan is in the end, because it can be used as a summary, but a consolidated summary of why are you going to do this and why you can be successful in your roadmap. So if you don't have any question, I speak a lot, as you can see, but if you have any question at any time, don't hesitate to ask in the chat or to ask me whatever. I don't know if I can see the chat, so Tessa, if you can tell me when someone speaks in the chat or in Slido.
I read the questions to you when you want, so you just tell me, Adrià.
So starting the first point, the executive summary, I really like to explain it in bullet points, because as I said, I think that the executive summary has to be really concrete and really brief, but in the same time, really important. So first of all, what is your idea? I really like, it's something that maybe is too informal, but I like to say that you should try to describe your idea in one tweet, which is really short, but you should be able to capture the attention of whoever is reading your business plan in one sentence. Okay, what are you doing? What is your incredible idea that you want me to know of? Then when you have that attention, you have to show why do you want to develop this idea. Okay, I want to develop this idea because I think it's important for society, because I think there's a market gap, because I think that there is an economic opportunity here. Your most honest purpose of building your idea has to be in your executive summary, because it will be the most important connection point with the person or the people reading your business plan. Then how are you going to make it real? Once they know what are you going to do and why you want to do that, okay, how are you going to do it? It's okay, it's of course a really short description and a really short explanation of how you pretend to do it, but you have to prove that your idea is valid and that at least in one paragraph, you know how to convince me that the idea is real, is feasible, you can make it, and with your own resources or with your current resources, you can be able to develop it. Then, how does the future of your idea look like? In many aspects, the business plan is commonly delivered, for example, for competitions, for programs, for startup programs, for even, of course, the business angels or funding strategies. So they want to know how the future of your idea will look like. No one is going to be interested in an idea that will die next year or next 6 months. Everybody wants to know about an idea that will change the world in the next 5-10 years, or if not change the world, at least change something that is not currently done. So I think that the future perspectives of your idea are really important. How do you picture yourself in this environment? And finally, as I mentioned, the team that is really important in this section. How is going to build this amazing idea, present your dream team, as I like to say, because I think that it's really important to slightly mention who is going to be able to provide all these resources, all this time, all this creativity into action to bring this idea into reality. So with this executive summary, that one I normally suggest, I've been told that it shouldn't be more than 1 page, longer than 1 page, because normally what you can say in 1 page is not that important, and you should be able to make a summary exercise trying to take away not that relevant information that you will have plenty of time to develop in all the other parts. So I normally suggest to do 1 page summaries and try to be really structured and really clear. I mean, no, don't put many information on, okay, I have to put one page. I'm going to put it without the spaces, without separation, without any bold letters, because it will be higher. The executive summary is going to be like the first page, like the face, like a CV of your idea. So it's really important that both in content, but also in format, it's appealing and it's attractive to people that it's reading it, because otherwise your attention, you see maybe 13 lines in a row, you say, okay, I'm not only visually, you're just discarding that business plan, which can be a key differential. So first of all, starting for the idea description, I like to say, and I like to explain the description first, like a storytelling. I'm really the type of person that likes stories, that like how people can connect a business idea with a real problem, and makes it coherent for me to understand why this idea is solving that problem. So in that case, as you can see in the screen, I like to use the structure, problem statement, solution description, and how this solution description has a value proposition. The first is the most important part, because it's going to put in to take the attention, or to catch the attention of the person reading it. Which is the problem that you are currently facing, or that society is currently facing, that hasn't been solved, or that hasn't been solved the way you want to do it. Right now, there is a lot of pollution in cities. Right now, there is overcrowded cities. Whatever the problem is, it's really important that you describe it, that you state it, and you show that you know what the problems are and what the current situation in your idea development. Once you have said the problem is this, or you have described the problem, you have to pose your solution. It's really important that you connect it. I like to say, to picture it like as a storytelling, because somehow it has to be a story. For example, the problem statement is this. Okay, my solution is this. No, okay, the problem is this that has driven me to build this idea because I believe that. So the solution description should be like an antithesis of what the problem was. Okay, I have problem X, I'm going to provide solution Y. So it's really important that you connect it and you coherently connect it, because that will lead the person who is reading it to better understand why your solution is so effective, so important, or so interesting. Because when you are solving a need, a pain point, wherever, people is much more interested and much more engaged in your idea, and gets the point of why you are trying to build that idea and why your solution is so important. And then once you have done this, it's really considerably easy to show the value proposition, because you have posed the problem, you have showed your solution. So if I'm solving a problem, my solution is providing some value, which is the most important point. Okay, so my solution is really important, provides a huge value proposition for this type of people, for this segment of the population, for this part of the city, for this economic sector, whatever. But it provides you the opportunity, and it gives you the scenario in which you have posed as a solution, as a effective solution to a real problem that you have described, and the value proposition is like just sells itself. So you have only to recap what the solution is and which are the main value proposition points. Then, when you have already described this in a more storytelling format, what I like to mention in the idea description is somehow, and after in the market analysis is a little bit better developed, but the competitive advantage. Nowadays, it's really difficult that your idea is unique. No one has ever heard about it. No one has heard anything similar to it. It's really difficult to come up with an idea like this, at least from my point of view. So what are your competitive advantages? The point or the key points are how are you going to make it different? Which are the points that you are going to make it different? And how you are going to be able to differentiate and to efficiently differentiate from the people that are currently in many places of the world doing something not maybe like your idea, not exactly like your idea. Maybe it's not an application, it's a website, maybe it's not a product, it's a service, but it will be there will be something that has something to do or to see with your idea. How are you plan to be effectively beating that people that is already building that and that has the experience of building that? So which is your competitive advantage? Then when you say what are your competitive advantage, your actual competitive advantage or your future competitive advantages, because depending on the development level, that will be different, but you have to mention which point are you currently in. I mean, I have only drafted a mockup. I don't have even the application, or we have tested the application in a considerable high or huge sample of 500 people, just to test user experience, just to test functionalities. So it gives the reader a really nice picture of, okay, they have this competitive advantage and they are proving them in which scenario, on which environment, because it's not the same to prove your competitive advantage in a 10-friend sample that you are giving them the application or the service or the product and testing it, than maybe in a 500, 1000 releasing your application in a prototype stage. So it's really important for the person that is reading the business plan to know which development level they are currently in and what are they mainly doing. And finally, and this varies depending on the type of idea or the type of project that you're working on, the idea protection can be a really key element on your business plan. Why do I say this? Because, for example, if you are working on biotech sector, if you are working on high-tech sector, if you are working on, I don't know, products sector mainly because they have a specific way of doing or specific features or whatever, anyone reading your business plan will be really interested in, okay, if your idea is so innovative, if your idea is so amazing, how do you plan to protect this amazingness, or how do you pretend to protect it from others that have more resources, more experience, more everything, from taking it when you publish it on social media or in a newspaper and doing it faster than you, better than you, and with more resources than you. So it's really important for different types of sectors and different types of ideas to protect them with patents, with IP frameworks, with whatever legal framework that describes and protects your idea. It's really important that if it's something core in your business, you mention it on the idea description, showing that you don't only care about your idea, but you care that much that you're going to protect it with all the means that are possible or that are at your level to do so. So I think it's really important. In my case, for example, I was building an application, as Tessa mentioned, a mobility application, and it's really difficult to protect an idea. It's not, well, no, it's not difficult, it's impossible. You cannot protect an idea. You can protect a way of doing things, you can protect an exact feature of a product or an exact design of a product, but you cannot protect your idea. So it's really important that if your project or your business is targeting to build a really innovative product, a really innovative service, a really innovative process, for example, in the health sector, it's really important that you investigate, that you research which are the best protection ways of binding your idea and how you can do that effectively and preferably on a larger scale. If you can protect it at a European level, it's better than if you protect it only in your country, or if you can protect it in your own country rather than only in your region. It's important because you don't know when and how your idea will go global, international, national, whatever. It's really important that you can protect it as big as the idea can go to. So after this idea description, I'm going to make a focus on the team and management that, as you would have been able to see, I'm really looking forward to describe, which are the key points to describe in the team section of a business plan. First of all, and the things that have been told the most to me and to my team is define the role and the responsibilities in the clearest way possible. Okay, you are a group of friends, a group of students. For example, in my case, we are a group of university friends, university classmates that we were friends before starting my startup. And when we first started talking with people, they say, okay, you are really good friends, you know each other, which is a good point. But when it comes to defining roles, who is going to be in charge of this? Who is going to be in charge of who? Who is going to lead over the others? Because there are some things that are really important to describe at the beginning of any idea. Who's going to take the final decision if the time comes? Who is going to take the full responsibility in X area if something fails, that will surely fail at some point, in marketing, in finance, in strategy, in technology. It's really important that in your team, you define who is doing what and whose responsibilities are the most important. Because at some point, when things don't go as expected, when problems start to arise, the responsibilities and the role definition will be a powerful tool to solve these problems and to overcome them in a more efficient way. That if everything is really bad, if anyone knows what are the current responsibilities or the current roles. So I understand that if they see who is in charge of, okay, this person is in charge of ICT because he's a really expert on technologies, he's developed applications before. This is going to be the CMO because he's already working in marketing, even in internships, even programs, even if your experience is not that large. It's really important that you define who is in charge of what and why. Why is this person capable of developing that function in your team? Then, as Marta will explain now, skills and personal diversity, I think it's a really important point that, and it's, I speak from my experience because as I said, we were at the beginning, 5 people from international business, with the same background, with the same knowledge, we were attending the same classes. So there was no much diversity on it. 3 of us were more focused on marketing and business development. The other 2 were more focused on financing and accounting. But however, our profiles were quite similar. So what did we have to do? To look for that diverse people, for these different profiles in our team, and try to onboard them. So it's really important that your team, even though it's difficult at the beginning to onboard people and to convince people to enter your project, as much as you can, you have to try to be diverse. You have to have different skill sets in your team, because that will lead you to a wider decision-making process in which you have different perspectives, you have different opinions, which will lead to a more objective final result if you manage to speak and to communicate with your teammates. Then I think that it's important to have a flexible and efficient workflow at the beginning, especially in projects and our ideas which are really horizontally based. At the beginning, everything is for everyone. There are no clear responsibilities, as I mentioned before, that it's an important point. So it's important that you define a workflow that doesn't put in the same place or in the doesn't cohort anybody's creativity or opinion, and that fosters the innovation, the creativity in the project, so it can be effectively brought to develop more functionalities, develop more possibilities, thinking out of the box. So it's important that you are flexible and you have an efficient workflow in your team. And last, I think that experience and motivation, depending on your age and your development level, one will be more important than the other. But I think that if you have no experience, as it was my case or my teammates' case, as of some of us, motivation has to be the aspect that in some way brings the experience that you don't have. Okay, I have 21 years old. I cannot have worked 5 years because physically it's impossible that I have worked that much time, but I'm motivated. I really I'm really interested in this topic. I'm really interested in my idea. I've investigated a lot. So if you don't have that experience, try to offset that lack of experience with your huge motivation, with your huge knowledge, with your huge passion of your idea. You have to combine experience and motivation, whatever the point you are is. So you have to try to bring both as much as possible to show the person that is reading the business plan, okay, you are a person that with little experience, but with lots of passion, with lots of motivation, that will drive you to build an efficient idea and a really good idea. So I think that combination is really important in a business plan. So Marta, if you want to mention your perspective on the team management.
Yes, thank you, Adrià. I wonder if, however, it's better to, I saw some questions in the chat. I don't know if it is the turn of our participants to make questions. Tessa, can you open the floor to them?
If they want to, they are still free to drop them. The first question I have already gathered for you, Adrià, is could you give us an example or an illustration of more solutions and value proposition?
Okay, so for example, for a solution, I will use my own example for my my startup, and if that doesn't work for you, just tell me. But I will come back for a second so I can. So in my case, solution description, you have to be really clear on what on solving the problem that you've mentioned before. So for example, in my case, the solution to the problem was that there were many mobility options arising. There were a lot of mobility options in every big city, but they were really decentralized. You have to have 10, 15 applications. You have to verify your identity in each of them. You have to put your bank account or your credit card in each of them. So which is the sort of description? A unique platform, a unique application that unifies all of them, and that makes the process much more simple. The solution has to be like, for example, I'm going to put a more mainstream case, Airbnb, which is the problem. Hotels are really expensive. There's a lack of space, current space in big cities to host all the tourists that want to go to the city. What does Airbnb do? Provides a good opportunity for both hosts and guests to bring the best option at a lower fare that maybe hotels or that maybe other types of places to stay in a city. So they provide the solution with a really powerful platform that connects guests and hosts, and that provides the best price for people that don't have that much budget. In this sense, once you have described your solution, which is the value proposition of, I'm going to come back to my startup. Miivo provides a value proposition because it makes mobility much more comfortable. You have everything in your one application. You don't have to be going through all these processes I mentioned. It makes it much more quick because you don't have to be checking the availability of every application. You have it all in a single application, and you have it a really much more greener mobility option, because making it easier and more comfortable to use greener mobility options fosters consequently mobility, sustainable mobility. So when you have described your solution, the value proposition are like the key points that your solution is providing value to. For example, you have to think of the person that will be using your application. Which are the most important points that this person is satisfying, that this person is enjoying of your application? Okay, it's fast, it's comfortable, is something that takes care of the environment, is something that allows me to travel more times in the case of Airbnb, that allows me to travel more times in a year because it's cheaper, it's really flexible, you can cancel it. The value proposition is like the key points that your solution provides to its final user. So that would be a description. I hope I could answer your question.
I could give the floor because somebody raised their hand.
Yeah, it's still me, because I have another question, actually two questions regarding advantage comparative. So in a competitive, in high competitive market, how to describe, how to analyze the advantage comparative. If we use the Ricardo theory, it may not work, because if we reduce the price, we don't get enough profitability or enough margin. So as entrepreneur, we cannot, how can we live on? So yeah, how to get this advantage comparative, analyze it in the very high competitive market. And in terms of process, we do it before or we do it in combination with, in the connection with the market analysis. It's the same like a solution and the value proposition. How can I know the value proposition before analyzing my market? So it's a two question in one. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Regarding the competitive advantage, the business plan structure, as I said, is something free. You can choose and you can choose which part to make before, but it's obvious that you work on your business plan before you show it to someone. With this, I want to say that your competitive, you will have to know, you will have to investigate, to research, to read, to make a lot of things about market analysis, to understand your idea, to understand the environment of your idea. So you will get that competitive advantage that is sustainable, that is feasible, that is economically feasible, especially as you mentioned, investigating the market. You will have that incredible idea, but you will have to justify it with a market analysis, with a huge market analysis that justifies that your impressions, that your thoughts on why your idea is better, you have to justify that in the market, in the real world. So when building a competitive advantage, even though I talk about it in the idea description, because I think it's important to be a little bit different, to differentiate your business plan from others or your idea from others, it's of course really important that you dive into your market analysis, that you extensively investigate about your market. You have to know about it, who is in it, how are they playing right now, how are they acting right now. So it's really important that the market analysis gives you the justification for your thoughts on your idea. That's why I like to present the competitive advantage first, and then in the following slides I will show you that the market analysis backs you up in saying, okay, I mentioned this, I said that I was going to be more competitive than my competitors in this aspect because I realized this, and this aspect, because I analyzed this growth, I analyzed this trend, I analyzed this current need that is not being satisfied. So you are mentioning it before, but you will justify it later. And for the second question, could you repeat it, please?
The second question was about, or the first, how to remain competitive or to describe the competitive advantage in a very high competitive market.
Okay, so in that sense, if your idea is competing in a really competitive market, it's really important that you, as I said, you have to really focus on the market analysis. In that case, maybe the market analysis is a more important part in your business plan that, for example, the marketing strategy, because you will have to justify why your idea is different, why your idea is going to bring something new, because if there's already plenty of competitors doing something similar, why are you trying to enter this market? Why are you thinking of building this idea? Because if you really want to describe your idea and you really want to carry out your idea, you will have to justify why is that. And that's also mentioned in the purpose, as I said before, in the executive summary. Why do you want to build this idea? Which is your main purpose? Apart, of course, from making money, being profitable, being able to live, as you said before, but which is your real motivation to drive this idea into success or into reality? So to do so, or to answer that question, you will have to investigate a lot on the market, see which is the market gap that you are going to fill, because in every market, even in very saturated markets, there are gaps to fill. So you have to find that gap and exploit it as much as you can and justify that your idea is worth the time, the investment, whatever, because this market gap is not filled yet, and you will fill it with your idea.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much also for this discussion, for your questions. So I'll try to go back to the team and management, as Adrià introduced very well. You see that, well, normally I like to speak about this threefold item when we are in front of an idea, as we discussed some minutes before. This idea develops some kind of three areas, which are people, product, and processes. The product is the area that most responds to this idea that we mentioned before, and the processes that is the work that we, carry out to put the product into the market, the product or the service. When I speak about products, it applies also to services. But it's true that, as Adrià already mentioned, the basis, the pillar at the basis are people, because without people, fortunately, even today, when we are only used to technology and less focusing on people, but fortunately, people are still the pillar, the main pillar of an entrepreneurial project. So if you need to convince someone to believe in your project, the first thing is to have a good team. A good team, you are the first one. If you are the main entrepreneur, you are the first one that have to have a solid background. But you, as Adrià said, you need to look for complementarity also in your team. So to select people, friendship or natural relations, or, people that met by chance sometimes can bring up nice projects. But it is important to be sure that there is this complementarity of backgrounds and solid backgrounds, among you. This is the first thing that an investor or someone that need to believe in your project will look for. The second thing is also knowledge. Of course, you have to be aware of the subject that you are going to deal with. As Adrià said, he observed the market. He observed also, first of all, as a user, all these applications that in this moment we use for sharing cars, for sharing, bicycles or whatever. But it's not enough to be just a user and see how things come. You need to have some deep knowledge on the matter. So you need to present yourself also as a kind of a subject matter expert, all right? And you need to demonstrate it. So it's important that you read, observe, discuss, study, this sector, industrial or service sector, whatever it is that you are going to work in. Of course, if you are a well-experienced people, is better, a well-experienced person. That's something that, of course, you acquire with the time. As Adrià said as well, if you are a young entrepreneur, that's more difficult. But sometimes, you can have just intense experience just for a short time. So that needs to be well balanced between, a long experience in terms of time or a very intense experience, even if shorter. Competence, it comes together with knowledge more sometimes, but it's not the same thing. The competence, we will go now also into this area of skills, to speak about skills, competencies. Sometimes we never know where is the border between a term and the other, but you need to demonstrate also that you have the right competencies to run this project. You and your team, as I said before, it's important to be complementary and to support each other and to keep a balance among the team. And of course, something that any investor will look for are references. References from people that have dealt with you, with people that have taught you, people that have observed how you behave, how you were committed with your studies, with other experiences, even formal, formal or non-formal education experiences, for example. Sometimes, in my opinion, the first thing that someone needs to look at when you have a CV in front of you are not the professional or the studies background. This is my opinion, but the attitudes, the informal experiences that this guy had or already experienced in his or her life. That's very important, and these 5 aspects, I would say, is what constitute your visit card. So the visit card of your project too. All together as a team, you as a single person and all together as a team. And that's why I mentioned before, we need also to keep a relevant balance between hard and soft skills, as we call them today. Can you please go to the next slide? Thank you very much. What is a person? What is a person today? A person is, kind of a skill set. So the combination, as you read here, of knowledge, of qualities or abilities, things that we know how to do, or things that we have learned, of things that we have, our character has been developed during our life. And I mean, this is a process that starts from the very beginning of our lives, since we are a child, right? So this is why it is important to educate also children with an entrepreneurial mindset. Education policies today are going very much in that direction. So we are made of skills. And today we speak about soft and hard skills, as I said, because we are a mix, and no one of us is the same as the other, By the way, I don't know, I see Nora here. Can you have just a word to describe yourself in terms of soft skills? Just one skill that you can select to describe you.
Organizational skills.
Okay, cute.
Or team building, I would say.
Okay, and leave you? I go random. No?
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sorry, I missed the question.
Oh, sorry. I was asking if you can identify with one soft skill describing you. Which is the first one that comes to your mind to describe you?
Auto-learn, I think. Auto-learning. Auto-learning.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Good. Jean-Pierre?
I would say empathic.
Empathic, yeah. Yip?
I wanted to say the same one. So
That's
I would
not
say
fair.
the same for me, actually.
Okay, well, just for you to see that each of us are different, and I mean, is different from the other. But of course, during the educational and training pathway, we acquire these soft, which are more personal. Okay, so personal skills. That means what you are, what you really are, and hard skills, which are more technical skills, which is those skills that you acquire through your studies, you're acquiring your degree at university, or even just at school, at a technical school, as a person. And then I'm sorry, I said different from what you are as a person, and these technical skills that you acquire during, you know, your life, either studying or working in an environment. Go please to this to the next one. Okay, this is what that's why today, if we mix together these soft and hard skills, we are considered a powerful person. So we call them the power skills. This is what makes people to be able to, you know, to have a value, a real value, a value added for the market. Okay, and allows a person to bring to the market products, services, and whatever that can meet the needs of the customer. So that's what we today call normally, you know, in psychology and training and educational policies, we call all this mix of competencies the power skills that make you strong to enter the market. So I just select some of them to summarize which are the most important, and they are grouped in these communication skills, critical thinking, leadership, which is important, but I would make a difference in this area. Positive attitude, you know, that's I think the greatest pillar to base your character on and your attitude. Teamwork and work ethic. What does it mean? That communication, you need to be able to tell. Adrià spoke before about storytelling, how to tell about your idea, how to tell about yourself, but how to create a dialogue also with your partners, with your employees, with the audience, with the customer, with the, you know, with the market in on the whole. Critical thinking, being able to select, to reflect, to decide, you know, all these kind of things that are totally necessary to run a good team and to carry out a good process. So people, product, process, right? Leadership, as I said, not only of us can be leaders, because this is an internal attitude, right? But it is important that in your project and in the world in general, you know, that there are leaders and followers, because the leader without a follower is no one, and the follower needs to follow someone. So we need to have a leader that helps us to go ahead. Okay, so it is very important also to, if you are an entrepreneur, to be this leader, this figure, you know, of a leader, or to know very well that you have a leader to follow. So this is important also in the balance of the team. The positive attitudes is, as I said, it's fundamental, because if we are not positive, you see, it's a couple of years now that we live in a world which is more negative than other, right? But if we continue to absorb this negativity around us, we won't go ahead, because you just see, you know, things that this doesn't work and I don't like that and that person. No, we need to have a positive attitude always to carry out and to be confident with our project more and more, right? Teamwork, that's fundamental as well, to have well, a good relationship with our partners, as I said, our employees. If you create a company that, you know, grows and grows, and also to, well, this is also related to the communication area, because in a teamwork, it is important to know how to, you know, create the dialogue and to exchange ideas and to respect the other, even if you don't think the same thing, but you need to have this ability to create empathy, as someone of you said before, create empathy, to create the relationship, but always respecting people. And then work ethic. We need to keep this in mind from the very beginning. Our product, our project, whatever our service, whatever we try to put into the market needs to be ethic. Ethic means that, again, you need to respect people, you need to be sustainable, you need to be inclusive. So these are some of the words that today, the key words, sometimes I call them the magic words, you know, that open the doors to your project or to your entrepreneurial idea. You see that we normally here when speaking of policies on European policies and local policies, you listen very often to this green word as well. We need to be green and respectful from the environment, but not only, because there are many other factors that can influence the world to grow in a better way. And again, we come back to people. People are always in front of the, our goal. Yeah, here, thank you for passing to the next one. This is just for you to see how the 6 areas that I more or less described before can be deployed and exploited in these other more specific soft skills that are for sure evaluated by anyone that meets you when you present a project idea, an entrepreneurial idea, or those soft skills that I suggest you to take into account whenever you need to select, a person to work with you. I think I won't go in deep on this because it's very long, and I think I'm over. Adrià, I don't know if you want to go on. Yeah, shall I go on also on management, or you want to exchange?
No, yeah, sure. If you want to continue, it's okay for me. I was just listening, but we can you can explain the workflow, and I can finish the team and management and why it's important, and we close.
All right.
Here and we go for a coffee.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the way, because I cannot see the chat at this moment? Tessa, please.
No, we have no questions at the moment.
Are there any now from anyone? Okay. Yeah, sorry.
No, nobody's raising their hand for the moment. I think everybody was listening so well because it was very interesting. So
thank you very much. Okay, so I just close up speaking about, okay, we have these people, as I said before, some of them are featured in one way, others other characterized by other abilities, capabilities, skills, and whatever. But of course, we need to manage also people, and people depend on the process, okay? So this is here, you see the workflow breakdown structure, so the WBS, as we call normally. I just brought this example. To build a house, you need to organize all the work. So you cannot start from the roof, of course. You need to start from the basement, but first of that, you need to start from the concept, from the idea again, right? How do I want this house to be? Which color do I want to choose for this house? As I said before, keep in mind also that my project, in this case of a house, need to be respectful of the, you know, the context where it is, need to be comfortable for the people that we live in, needs to be, you know, I don't know, nice, and, you know, have a nice design to you know, to make people love it. So you need to structure all the work, all the process, to have the final output, which is the house. And this is called the workflow breakdown structure, the OBS, as I said, that helps you to organize mentally all the process, okay? So please, if you go to the next one, the same thing happens with your entrepreneurial project, whatever it is, right? You start to build your ideas. So you don't start from the people that you select, because yes, of course, as Adrià said, you can, you know, feel very well with a person and, you know, have a common idea. Okay, let's do this together. Yes, of course, you can start from that. But then the first thing you need to think about is what exactly you want to do, what exactly you want to build, not a house, probably something else, right? But the process is the same. You need to think how to organize the work, and then consequently, you will go and organize the people to reach the goal of your, you know, your final goal, which is the house or whatever. But the first thing is to organize the content. How are we going to reach our goal? And then you can divide, if it is a complex task, if it is a complex goal to reach, you can also divide your work in different work packages, and then use each work package, every work package as a sub-project, and then other sub-projects inside, and then divide into phases or deliverables, you know, as you see in this well, image, very simple, but that's the idea. It can be more complex or less complex depending on the, you know, sub goal that you are going to reach. And only then, when you have clear in mind what you want to reach with the final output that you will obtain, then you can organize also people, because people then, as you see, you have the people management structure that will help to carry out the tasks, because otherwise you can have even a Nobel Prize person, right, to carry out some task, but he or she might not be the right person to carry out the work that you need to carry out to do. So that's I won't go into other details now, because I think that Adrià has a lot of things to tell us later on. But this is just for you to have the first idea of how the process, I mean, how this idea needs to develop in three, you know, based on three pillars. So people, product, and process. But people is fundamental to govern the rest of the two pillars. I mean, mainly to govern the process that will take you to the product or service, as I said at the beginning. In any case, if we want to go into detail, we'll have the time. And I think now I leave to you the floor again, Adrià, and tell me if we make a break or we go on still for some minutes.
Yeah, just to make a recap of what all the useful information that Marta mentioned about the people and the management of the team in our idea. I just wanted to sum it up in the last slide, saying why for me is the team so important at the beginning of any idea. For me, I consider that it's the most valuable resource initially. As Marta mentioned at the beginning, it's really important to have a strong team that can convince people that the idea can be made. So you can make reality the idea you say you have to make or you want to make. Then regarding the question I had before on competitive advantages, I wanted to highlight this time that team can be a potential source of competitive advantage, because your teammates, your management team, it's going to be unique. It's one of the few things that is going to be unique. There are no equal persons in the world, people in the world. So try to build your team so it can be a potential source of competitive advantage. And then from my experience, I think that complementarity is a key survival factor, just to make everything easier and to combine different skills to provide a better product or service. And finally, just a more personal part of why team is so important for me. During all the development of my startup, obviously we've gone through ups and downs. Fortunately, more ups than downs, but still there were some downs. So it's really important that your team is that cohesionate and is that united. So the downs are not something a problem source, but improvement source, a way of uniting more each member of the team, of keeping the team stronger. So I think that it's really important that in any team, it doesn't matter if it's a sports team, a startup team, a class team, wherever, if you manage to have a strong link between all the members, ups and downs will be much better managed than in the case that everyone is a little bit more separated and everything is not that united or unified. And I wanted to reflect that in the famous Phil Jackson quote that the strength of the team is each individual member, but the strength of each member is the team, which I think is really important to show how each individual matters to the team, but for the individual, team is really important depending on the situation and depending on the environment. So I think that would be really important to take care of and to show it in a business plan. Okay, so if everybody is back here, I'm going to start speaking about the market analysis part of the business plan, which, as I said before, is really important because it's the part where you will be able to explain your investigations about the market. Sorry. So, which are the main market analysis points for me, or which are the ones that I would like to see in a business plan? First of all, I think that it's really important that you are able to identify your industry strengths and weaknesses in your business plan. It's really useful for someone that doesn't know your idea or doesn't know your idea yet to know how you plan to identify which are the strengths, which are the weaknesses, which are the parts that your market is doing good right now, which are the parts that your market is doing not that good in that sense. So I think it's really important to see that in a business plan, to develop it, to show it clearly and with in a more extensive way, but you have to be concise and you have to be clear so people don't get lost in a really deep analysis that maybe they don't understand. Second, the most important point for me is studying and forecasting growth expectations. One of the most important things in any strategic business part is studying the growth forecasting that your business or your market is going to have. It's really difficult that especially an investor invests in a company operating in a market which is not growing at all, or it's slowly falling or decreasing. So it's important, first of all, to try to justify, even if the market is falling, which part of the market is growing. So you can justify that the part of the market the market you are addressing is growing, because it's really difficult to convince anyone to bet on an idea who's operating in a dying market. For example, let's say it's really difficult that an investor trusts someone betting on DVDs nowadays. Maybe if DVDs become some vintage fashion, like it's already the case a little bit, but it's really complicated to justify and to convince someone to bet and to invest in a project that is operating in a market that has not growth. So if you are looking for a market that is growing, how much is it growing? How are the expectations for the future years? to grow, and how you can be inside of that positive trend towards a growth and to a more positive aspect that your company or your idea will be benefiting from. Then it's really important too to find a specific success factor in the sector. Each market is different, each company. So you have to try to find which are the most important points and the most key points of your company in your sector, and try to describe them. For example, if you are building cars, nowadays a key success factor is that you have a really detailed EV strategy, electric vehicle strategy, so you can adapt to the demand change from electric vehicles and petrol-based vehicles. So it's really important that you find the key success factors in your sector, so you can better identify both for your firm. It gives the impression that your firm is going to be able to adapt to these key factors that have proven to be really important and successful in your sector. So as I was saying, it's really important that you identify these specific success factors in the sector, both to apply them to your company and to your idea. So it gives the impression that you know how to be successful in this specific sector, but also it's really important and really useful because it proves that you have made a deeper analysis than the most external one, and you've analyzed and you've used data and insights to identify some key success factors that will be really, really powerful for the development of your idea. And last but not least, I think that one of the biggest advice that I've been ever told was that everything has been done before and nothing has been done yet. So you have to try to use the previous success and failures made by others, so you can do what has never been done before, avoiding these mistakes, avoiding these practices, and learning from the success too. If your competitors, if previous firms, if previous markets have been successful in anything, analyze why they were successful, analyze if that successful factors are still in the market, or if they are something from the past. Analyze everything so you can have the most information possible to take the decisions, to trace your strategy, and to set your goals based on experience done before, which can be really, really useful to provide new strategies and new plans for your idea in the present. Then I'm going to explain the four most important useful market analysis tools, which are pest analysis, SWOT analysis, and port-specified forces, together with prior analysis. Tessa, I don't know if you can share, or you have already shared the slide question for this, because I would like to people to vote now before explaining each one of them. So it's good to know.
So the market analysis one, if you give me a second, I will do that.
Yeah, sure, don't worry.
Okay, so it's active now.
Okay, great. So if you can vote before I explain them, and once I explain all of them, we can make an analysis of the votings, and we can solve any doubts that might arise. So in following the order, the first one is the pest analysis, according to the symbols in English. P is according to political, E is according to economic, S is according to social, T is according to technological, E again is according to environmental, and finally L is reflects the legal part. This is a really common tool used in market analysis, basically when considering the geographic zone where your idea is going to be developed, even if it's a region, a country, even a continent. It's really important to analyze these 6 aspects. There are different theories and there are different parts that are only, for example, PEST or PEST-T without different, but I think that the PEST-L is the most complete one. And I found it really interesting because it provides you a huge overview of which is the situation in many aspects in the place you are going to operate. For example, it's important to know if from the political point of view, if fiscality is really high or really low, if, for example, we all know some cases of tax havens and all these things. It's really important to know the stability of the political system, which is something that for companies and startups is really important, if they support startups, if it's a country that develops and invests in innovation and growing ideas. So in that sense, it's important. For example, then in the economic part, if it's a country that is growing economically, if it's a country that whose GDP is growing, or if it's on a crisis, or if the inflation is really high, or which is the disposable income, the average disposable income for families in that country. In the case of social, I think that it's one of the most important parts of the best analysis, because it will give you a really important information of which is going to be your target audience, because your target audience will come from a segment of this huge population, age, how educated people are, which is the level of studies that they on average get, which are the cultural traditions, which are the cultural implications of your business in that specific area. So I think social is really important to analyze, because it will drive you and you will have to work on that afterwards. So I would take care of the S of the pestle very carefully. Then technology, depending on the type of business or idea that you are trying to develop, is more or less important. But nowadays, technology is really important in every aspect of our daily lives, almost. So I would take care of it too. Environmentally, in my case, I'm really concerned about it, and I really like to analyze the second E of pestle, because it's something that I really value, and I really think it's growing, and it's a growing trend in especially in Europe, concerning the climate crisis that is currently going on. So if your business is somehow affected, that nowadays is nearly impossible that it's not affected by it, but if it's more or less affected by environmental policies and environmental aspects, you should take care of this part in the pest analysis. And the last one is the one that will take you, will allow you to be operating according to the law, which is obviously not only important but compulsory. You will have to really go deep on which are the strict laws, which are the labor laws in that country, the technological, the idea protection laws that will they differ depending on the region, country, or continent that you are in. So it's really important that this aspect is also tight. Normally, it's something that is really relegated to external sources, because it's not that usual that startup teams at the beginning have a legal part on it at first. But it's really important, whether you have it in your own team or you take it from an external source, that you are able to have a strong and really reviewed legal part in your startup, so you don't commit any illegality and you don't get any fine, or even you don't get in any penal problem. The second technique is also one of the most known ones as the best. I think both these two are the most known ones in general in the business world, which analyzes the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. As I said at the beginning of the presentation of why I thought that writing a business plan is really important, if you remember, I said that it was really important because it allows you to analyze and to identify the strengths that you probably already know, but especially the weaknesses and the threats that you can have and that you might have in the future if you keep developing your idea. So in this sense, I think the SWOT analysis is the most powerful tool to analyze and to understand what your business characteristics really are from an objective point of view. I normally advise people that are trying to do a business plan, and especially a SWOT analysis, that they try to look for weaknesses in a third person's eye, because it's complicated that you see your own weaknesses, and maybe you try always that your strengths there are more strengths than weaknesses, or that your strengths are more important than weaknesses. And maybe just because of that, and it's completely normal, I've done that too, so I can't blame anyone that will do that. So I suggest that you ask for a third person's opinion, because it's really useful to see how other people that are not in love with the idea or so passionate about the idea, that will provide you really interesting feedback about the weaknesses, the threats, or have you seen that, or have you seen this company that is doing this, or I've already seen this, whatever anyone can tell you about the idea will allow you to see your weaknesses better than you will do it yourself. So in the SWOT analysis, that part is really important. But also in the lower part, in the opportunities and threats, I think that is very useful in this case, the SWOT analysis, because it provides you, in the case of the opportunities, a roadmap to follow and a roadmap to say, okay, I know which are the opportunities in the sector for my specific opportunities for my business idea, wherever. But they will provide you like a set of goals that you want to achieve and that you will have to plan when to achieve, because there will be opportunities that are immediately arising. For example, there is a very important fair in your city that month that can provide you key contacts, key networking, whatever, which is an opportunity that is next month or even that month. But there might be opportunities that are more structural, for example, market opportunities that might be useful for you next year or the next 2 years or during all your growth time, but it's not something that is that short-term oriented. So I think that the opportunities part of the SWOT analysis will provide you with key information about how are you going to develop your idea and which points you are going to try to take the most profit from. And on the other hand, the threats will let you know, okay, we have plenty of opportunities, we know what we want to do, but in a business idea, developing and growing means also reducing the risk, reducing the failures, reducing the mistakes. So if you take care of a great threats analysis in your SWOT analysis at first, that will allow you to prevent and to anticipate these mistakes or these failures before they happen. So the effects are much less important than they would be if you didn't prevent. There are some things that will happen and that will be not able to, you won't be able to control. But if you analyze in your business plan, okay, this might happen. When you analyze that this might happen, you analyze what will I do if this happens. So you will be able to, okay, there's a mistake that I couldn't do anything about, but I knew that it was possible that it would happen. So I know how to act in this case. That would give you a really huge competitive advantage comparing to competitors, because it will allow you to be one step ahead of them, one step ahead of reacting, and on the other hand will show that you have the capability and the capacity to quickly adapt to failures. That is something completely normal in every aspect of life, but especially on startups. You will keep on failing and keep on failing. The thing and the differential point on failing in the startup world is how you recover from failure and how you learn from failure. So if you are able to identify these threats and provide a guide on how to solve them or how to react to them, that will give you a really powerful tool to be able to adapt to the market, to any change that might come in, and to be ahead of your competitors just having a good threat analysis. Another really famous market analysis tool is the five forces analysis, which is more concerned about the position of your firm in the industry you're operating. As you can see in the image, you have the five main forces, which is the bargaining power of suppliers, the threat of substitutes, the bargaining power of buyers, the threat of new entrants, and in the middle, the industrial rivalry. In this sense, I think that the five forces analysis, it's really useful to understand how possible it is in your market to compete and how possible it is to be outcompeted. I mean, if you're entering a market in which you have to go through a lot of legal processes, the entrance barriers are really high, the competitors in there are quite an oligopoly, and you get to enter there, you have a really powerful information that you will be able to compete with the people in industry rivalry. So you will have to focus on your industry rivalry more than in the threat of substitutes or on the threat of new entrants. Whereas in the other hand, if your market or if your industry has no entrance barriers, it's really easy to enter and exit the market, and there's always a change in the competitors' landscape. It's important that you not only focus on the industry rivalry that is currently going on, but on the threat of substitute products or services that might outcompete your idea, and the threats of new entrants in that industry, because that might change the landscape and that might change the way you react to competition and you react to this part. concerning the bargaining power of both suppliers and buyers, I think that in the case of suppliers, normally it's more important for product business ideas, but services are concerned about that too. It's really important that you try to maximize the bargaining power that you have against, it's not a fight, but against these two parts, because I consider that if you are able to efficiently manage your bargaining power with suppliers, and you are able to efficiently manage the times, the money, how is it transferred, how is it everything works, I think that will give you a huge power in order to benefit that from that power in the industry rivalry and compete better against your competitors and be able to react better to the threat of both substitutes and new entrant competitors. And last, the market analysis tool that I wanted to leave for this final part is the RIO analysis, which I think is really important for the startup world, which is based on the value, rarity, imitability, and organization. This has to see a lot with the competitive advantage that we were talking about before. I think that RIO analysis is one of the most powerful tools to understand which is your competitive advantage, but not only to understand which is it, but how long you can stand for it, how long you will be able to defend it, and how you will have to operate and to work and develop it to make it sustainable over time, which is the most important part of the competitive advantage, because it makes no sense that this month you are absolutely better than your competitors if next month your competitors are going to be able to copy you and be as you or even better than you, because your competitive advantage was really easy to copy. So I think that the RIO analysis will give you the proper feedback on how to build a competitive advantage first, but on the other hand, on how to develop it and sustain it through time, which is a really important part of the competitive advantage, as I said.